Hey guys, welcome back. I'm a little bit early today. I told you I was going to be on time. But anyways, welcome back. So you find yourself here at CPM Zone, where we're just going to be a bunch of project managers just kind of shooting the breeze, talking a bunch of bullshit, telling stories, and hopefully saving people money. Or our company's money, actually. So as you guys probably saw from the thumbnail for this, we're gonna kind of see what the consequences are when a client's project manager can't make a decision about a color. And as we all know, everybody shuts down for 2 weeks during the holidays. So let's get started. This one comes from obviously from a couple years ago, before the whole coronavirus thing hit. And we were at the, if you were here last time, I talked about a project manager just kind of wanting to move things and actually move some cabinets, some millwork after they were already installed. We were pretty much going through punch list stuff, and you wanted to move something. Well, this comes from the same project manager, but this is a different project. It's actually in the same building, on the other end of the building. From the last story, we were tasked with building the vault for a linear accelerator. In this project, there was a corner of the building that had 4 doctor's offices. And so what the project was to actually remodel 3 of them, actually tear out pretty much 3 doctor's offices, leave one still active and going. That doctor, very unfortunate, she came on probably about 3 or 4 months prior to the project beginning. And they didn't move her. Her office was the one that was actually staying. And like I said, it was very unfortunate. She had all of her stuff in there. She didn't even have shelves to put her stuff up on the wall yet. They were still apparently working on getting everything all together and, writing up the work order and everything for them to come in and actually make all the changes she wanted in her office. So she kind of had all of her stuff strewn about, some space on her desk for the computer and for her to be reading things, obviously. And so when we came in, we tore everything out of those 3, and it made like an L shape because it was when you from the main hallway, you went through a door, and there was another small hallway that led to the back 2 offices. The first 2 offices actually had doors that faced the main hallway. So those 2. The one closest to the exterior of the building, that one, so this is at the end of a hallway, at the end of a corridor with an exit to the outside. So on the exterior wall, there was the one office left for the doctor that was still going to be there. And the other 3 were demoed out for us to come in and pretty much do our thing. So we got underway. And to be honest, we kind of felt bad because obviously during demolition, there's a lot of noise. There's a couple of days when we're legging out, doing a few things, obviously before the demo, we safe off, but we start doing the demo. That's loud. And actually was it the next room over? Yes, there was a linear accelerator in the next room over. So there were periods when they came over and said, hey, can you guys, for 10 minutes, not make noise, and not cause anything to really move and stuff, which I thought was kind of funny since the linear accelerators were inside of this massive concrete vault, but yet they didn't want us making a lot of noise. But of course, in a way, I do understand because I believe the way the foundation was laid or poured, that those concrete vaults were actually there when they first built the building, so they share, they share the foundation. They share the same slab on grade. So I can appreciate that their concern was the patient, which was no problem because we had that also. So we always found something else to do whenever they needed to use their linear accelerator that was right next to us. So, making a lot of noise during demo. Felt bad for that doctor that always, she was in her office actually a lot of the time, a lot of her 8-hour shift. I would say probably like 5 out of the 8 hours that she was there, she was in and out of the office, but she really spent 3 hours seeing patients and doing all kinds of other things. So, but those 5 hours she was in and out, and then took lunch and things like that. So, we did feel kind of bad that she had to deal with all this, that the university wasn't able to move her. And so we told the medical institution, which, yes, is it's a teaching hospital, part of one of the universities here in Southern California. We told the university if they're going to move her to let us know, we at no extra charge will help move all of her stuff to relocate her somewhere else on the campus or even in the same building. Unfortunately, they had so much construction going on, they really did not have a place to put her other than where she was at now. So we felt really bad. And even on one occasion when I knew we were going to be making a lot of noise because we had to do some concrete work in there, I offered to pretty much buy her lunch or something, saying we're really sorry we have to make all this noise. But she's like, no, you don't have to do that. It is all part of the process, at least because actually her office was going to be next to this. It was a CT simulator, and so that was like going to be, since she was right next to it, that was her thing. That was kind of like they're doing that. They brought her in specifically to see patients that were going to be using that piece of equipment. So she was like, she had no problem because honestly, she was getting brand new equipment to work with. So she didn't mind. And our project was supposed to last 3.5 months, which actually took 4 months because of this story. So what happened? Well, what happened was, as we were, at the beginning of the job, obviously we always have the submittals, our different subs and everything. They send us the submittals, so then we kind of do them. Actually, I was in charge of that. So I always checked all of the submittals to make sure that, the subs were making sure that they covered everything that the specs said that they needed to be, or that they needed, all the equipment, any plumbing fixtures, HVAC, all of their things, exhaust fans, mechanical stuff, the plumbers, all kinds of things, right? So that was part of my job. And I love doing it. So, but what we did in-house is that we did framing and drywall and concrete work, usually is what we did in-house. And any really, really small things, like if we needed to lay, 20 square feet of flooring or do the, well, maybe not. Actually, now that I think about it, we always got someone who, we always got a subcontractor come and do the flooring. Unless it was like the VCT, something small, where we just needed to replace a few tiles, we might do that ourselves. We usually did do those really, really tiny, small patch and repair things ourselves if we could. But like sheet vinyl, there was no way we could do sheet vinyl, in-house or anything like that. But anyways, so I was in charge of putting together the submittals for the framing and drywall. And also the doors, so door frames, doors, and also the window frames and windows. But obviously we did the window frames, and then we had a glazing company to come in and put that up. So, put in the glazing, the pieces of glass and whatnot. So the whole thing was that I submitted the door frames, I submitted the window frames, and I also submitted the doors because there were actually 3 doors there. And what happened was they actually held on to those submittals, and we kept asking what's going on. And so they said that they were actually kind of redesigning the doors. So there was the main door that was coming from the hallway into the space where the CT simulator was. There was a long hallway, and then the simulator was going to be there, all kind of off to the right as you came in. And so that was the door into the corridor. Okay. They said that one was fine the way it was being built, but the colors, they had issues with the colors. So we told them, well, fine then, what do you want? Because we submitted something, and I'll let you guys know in a couple minutes. And then there was this another door that came from the patient dressing room, because from the outside they can come into the dressing room, and the door from the dressing room into the CT simulator would be locked, and they would be let in by a staff member, just as the door from the corridor into the space, into the CT simulator space, was also locked. So a staff member had to open that door so that no one could get access if they weren't authorized to get access into that area. No qualms, no issues whatsoever. So that one, because the machine was white, so then they went with the paint color that matched that white. So their issue was that the colors or the doors weren't white. The initial colors that they chose, I can't remember what they initially were, but they were plastic lam. They were just P-lam doors. So they had an issue because what they wanted to do, and this came after the fact, after we bid it and everything, which of course paint doesn't really matter unless you're specifying, you know, obviously a different like specialty paint. Then so the painters had no problem. Whatever paint you guys want, just let us know like the week before, so that, you know, so we can make sure we order all of our paint and it's here, blah blah blah, whatever. No problem. And then the third door went into a small equipment room where they were keeping like the power conditioner and a whole bunch of other equipment, that electrical equipment that had to do with the CT simulator. So that door, because it was in the same space and viewable from the CT simulator, what they wanted was to not only match the white, but as it turns out, they didn't even want to have the hardware exposed, so it didn't break up that color. So our door frames also got painted the same white, obviously, but for metal instead of for the drywall, you know, walls. So we had no issues. Okay, well then what do you want? So then we had to actually end up going through about 3 or 4 different types of latches. You know, a touch latch. Okay, well, but how much force does it take? But then they wanted, or they, in order to get certain equipment in and out, they needed swing clear hinges, which now we had to change our submittal because our door frames weren't prepped. And the PM, which is the same, like I said, the same PM as the linear accelerator project from the last time, he actually went out and he found some hinges. And so we were looking at them and we go, oh, we didn't know if we could use those hinges. So we turn around, we go to our door guy. Door guy looks at him and goes, oh yeah, we can do that. We got to make sure that the door is prepped correctly, obviously, on the frame. Okay, so we want to change it to that. So now, of course, these hinges cost probably about 5 times more than just standard hinges. So you know what, we need to be compensated for that. So here's the beginning of a change order. So now the door, like they said, or like I said, we wanted it to be the same color. So we had to pick, or actually we gave them obviously the chips for the P-lam. So they had to choose a color, and they said, well, choose a white that's going to be pretty much the same as the paint color. We're like, well, but that we're not the designers, we're not the interior decorators, we aren't anything of that nature, and that's not part of our job. You guys need to pick the color of the paint as well as the color of the P-lam that you guys want for that door or those doors. So as it turns out, we ended up getting the white P-lam for that door, all the way around, you know, for the one going into the small equipment closet. And then we also had to get, was it the door that came from the dressing room into the CT simulator space also ended up being completely white all the way around. But when it came to that door going from the corridor into the CT simulator, that's where we ran into a problem. Now, mind you, we're trying to take care of this towards the end of October of that year that we were there, because it was supposed to be from October, and you know, I think mid-October is when we started. We're supposed to be done by the end of January, no later than the beginning of February. Okay, but because of that, we have that 2-week period leading up to Christmas and then to the new year, where a lot of the manufacturers will actually shut down all operations for those 2 weeks and then pick up right where they left off after the new year. And so we started in mid-October. By the beginning of November, I would say somewhere along the lines of like the 7th or 8th, somewhere around there, but early November, we brought up the whole thing with the doors. What's going on with the doors? You know, you guys need to pick the P-lam color that you guys want for these doors. So there was some back and forth going, you know, between the PM and the architect. So apparently, you know, and then they finally decided on the white. We go, okay, that's perfectly fine. So we're going to order all 3 doors white all the way around. And that's when the PM said, wait, but the door into the corridor doors our wood grain, you know? So that's not going to match. And we need to match what's in the corridor. We said, okay, well, that's fine. Then we'll get, the PLAM. What do you want? Whatever, birch or oak or cherry, whatever it is, you guys just need to decide. They said, well, can you bring us the samples of what the door manufacturers will actually do? Okay, that's no problem. So we took them, I think about 7 or 8 chips. And they were the small ones because that's what they gave us. And he said, oh, these are too small. I can't really tell. I'm like, dude, you were a practicing architect. You know how this works. So he requested to have the large chips, which, if you know, they're a little bigger than they're not the small 2x3 index cards. They're the larger ones, almost like a 5x7. I can't remember exactly the dimensions that they have, but it's almost like a 5x7 photo, the large chips. So we told them, well, that's fine. And when we went to find out, they said we can only give you 5. So, all right, well, then you need to narrow this down. All right, so he picked 5. He kind of went around, okay, this, and kind of using the small chips. So he wanted the big chips of those 5. Okay, no problem. We ordered them up. We got them probably 2 days later or something like that. So we went back to him and said, okay, we went to the job site and we looked and he said, okay, let's see the door that's right across from it, because the rest of the doctors that worked in that area with the CT simulators and the other linear accelerators all their offices were right across the hall from where we were doing the construction. So there was a door right there. So we said, okay, let's take a look at the nearest doors. So obviously the nearest door is the adjacent door where that doctor was that had just gotten hired. So we went and we looked at the chips. He said, okay, this is the chip that matches this door. Okay, so we walk over, and where all the other doctors are, we put the chip up to the door and it was different. It didn't match. So we looked at the other 4 chips. Sure enough, one of those other 4 matched that door exactly. I said, oh, well, this can't be good. So then I had to take out a sheet of paper. I sketched out the hallway and, where our door goes, where the other doctor's door is. The doctor's on the opposite side of the hall with their door and the color that they had. So then we go, well, let's take a look to see what the majority of the doors are. And mind you, there's about 6 doors down this hallway. So we go down, and I kid you not, out of those 6 or 7 doors, each one, we ended up matching each chip to at least 1 door. We're like, well, this is not going to be good, because even the 2 nearest ones are different. So what are we going to do? Said, that's not our call. That's dependent upon the architect and the PM. So we redid our submittal and we submitted it. And so we were kind of talking in the meeting, at the next meeting, we were being pretty much grilled about the colors, and we told him, look, this is our diagram. This is what we drew up. You can see each door pretty much has a different color that the chips correspond to. So none of these match each other. They're all different. The 5 nearest ones are all different. Which one do you want to use for this door? And so he's like, I don't know. I have to look at them, individually. And we go, that's perfectly fine. Now, mind you, this is already probably the 3rd week. This is going to be, is it the actual week of? No, it's the week before Thanksgiving. So obviously they're going to take a few days off there, the manufacturers. So we told him, well, okay, that's fine. You can take, this coming week and then the next week. But the week after Thanksgiving, we need to have an answer so that we can put our order in. So the week right before Thanksgiving, we're in our meeting and we bring it up again, and he starts going off about, well, the inside of the CT simulator is white, and outside all of these doors are all different colors. So I want to make the outside of the door the same color, or the color of the wood grain, to at least match something outside. And then the interior of the door, I want it to be white. And we said, we don't know if we can actually do that, or the door manufacturer or anyone. We don't know that they can do that. Which, I kind of said, well, it's just PLAM. I don't see why they couldn't put a different color PLAM on the front and on, all the edge banding and the other side of the door. So it was obviously, since it was my job, I'm the one that actually went to our door manufacturer and asked the representative there. He said, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, they do it all the time. Well, like, you just tell us what colors, what face you want. Obviously in your submittal, what kind of door is it? Is it a left-hand door, a right-hand door, right-hand reverse, left-hand reverse? All of that crazy shit. Which a lot of it, or half of it, I still don't quite understand. But okay. So we got our submittal, how it was before. It was a left-handed door, with a cylindrical lock. And let's see what else. Was it powered? No, it wasn't a powered lock. Oh, that one was just going to be a key. So you needed a key to get it. So it's a keyed lock, but it's a cylindrical lock, or handset, or a cylindrical lever is a lever lock. And so what he wanted was obviously the green on the outside and then the white color on the inside. So which was no problem. But then we go, okay, that's fine, but we need to know what color. Oh, I haven't decided yet, for the outside, the exterior, what wood grain we're going to go with. All right, well, we kind of, think about it during the week of Thanksgiving, okay? But the very next week after Thanksgiving, we need to have that color because we're getting into the beginning of December, and we only really have kind of like 3 weeks, because the last week of December plus that first weekend, or whatever that week is that January 1st lands in, they're taking those 2 weeks off. So we need to make sure that we get our order in before those 2 weeks. Otherwise, once we actually submit our order, we have whoever sorry about that, whoever submits their orders ahead of us, obviously they're going to get their jobs first. So if we wait, anybody that submits during those 2 weeks is going to be ahead of us. And the way that the door manufacturers work is they actually look at the timestamps of all the emails and they put them in that same order for production. So we told them we really are going to have to know by the time Christmas comes, because even the week before Christmas comes, because otherwise our order will not be put in front of all those other orders. They're going to just take it as it comes. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it. So the next, so we have Thanksgiving, so we have no meeting that week. Then the week after Thanksgiving, we go again. And so we're bringing up the things, where there really wasn't much to bring up, because, we worked that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the Thanksgiving week. And then the next week, it was only Monday, and our meetings were usually on Tuesdays. So there really wasn't much to really talk about, except obviously we brought up the doors again. You still haven't told us what color you want. He said, oh no, the chips are in my office. I have to go get them, and I'll go look. We'll go look after the meeting. Okay. So the meeting ended that, we were, well, not the entire meeting, but the office or conference part of the meeting was over. So we picked up all of our stuff, and the architect picked up all of his stuff and everything. Okay, we went to the job site to walk the site. And so we were walking out, and the PM turns to go out the door pretty much of the building that we were in. And we go, whoa, hold on. Hey, aren't you going to go get the chips for the doors so that you can decide? Oh, yeah. So he goes and he grabs them out of his office. So we're waiting. Here he comes. He's got the 5 chips on his, in his hands. And so we go out there. So we're kind of talking, this and that. And so, there was the door into the doctor's offices was open. So we walked over there and we're looking at the different colors. And actually the head doctor there, he comes over. Oh, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys walking the job? Yeah, we were walking the job, but the PM is trying to decide what color we're going to make the door, because that door is different. This door is different than that one. The one down the hall, the next one over is different than any of these two, and so on and so forth. Oh, okay. Like, well, so the PM turns to the doctor. It's like, what? Look at these 5 colors. Which color do you want on that door? And he goes, no. That's your job. I'm not picking colors. That door is going to be whatever color you want it to be. And so, he kind of one of those, like, oh, you can tell he's disappointed because he doesn't want to make the decision. So we're like, hey, but, we need to make this decision pretty soon. Otherwise, like we said, we're going to be, they're going to shut down. The manufacturer's going to shut it down for 2 weeks. And now we're going to be stuck in the water. There's plenty of work to do. So we for John, we were doing stuff. We had this massive change order for a bunch of framing because they actually changed up. They wanted, instead of just being a flat ceiling, they all of a sudden turned it into, having an alcove with lights. And so that was a major change order because it not only did it change the framing, but now the electrical contractor had to, kind of look that over and see, okay, well, what's it going to take? You guys need to let me know, what type of bulbs and all that stuff, so that what kind of lights you guys want in that alcove, so that I can adjust accordingly, price it out, blah blah blah. So the next week, or actually no, before the very next week, we already had that request, for the changes. So we sent it over to the electrician for pricing and everything. And so we emailed the PM and said, hey, we still need those door colors. It's getting down to crunch time. So we need to get this settled. And then the last week that anyone was going to be open came. So we emailed them a couple of times on Monday. And actually we got no response from the emails. We're like, but we knew he was there. Actually, my boss, the senior PM, had other business to do with one of the other PMs there at the medical institution, and so she saw him. She saw him on campus, and he was not replying, but she was busy, so she couldn't get over to him to see, to ask him what was going on. How come he wasn't replying to our emails? So I must have sent about 5 or 6 emails that day saying, where are the colors? And then Tuesday came around, and I was trying to call him, and nothing was going on. I was calling from the office, and he was ignoring the phone calls, because we spoke to one of the other PMs on that day, and they confirmed that he was there. So we're like, what's going on? How come, we need this freaking color? And I left them messages. So Wednesday comes around. It's the middle of the week. It's literally the last day that we can submit our order. And I had everything typed up. All I needed to do was put in the color. By the way, what we ended up deciding on, or what he decided on, was the face facing the corridor was going to have that wood grain P-lam on it, and the hinge side of the door would also have that same color, so that when it's open, it looks like it will be the same color all through, all 4 sides, even though it wasn't. And so then on the back side of the door was going to be that white P-lam, and the strike side of the door was going to be the white P-lam once again. So when it's open, when you're looking at it from the CT side, you see the white edge band, which still didn't make sense because of the way the door was open. You can still see the front anyways, which is the wood grain. Whatever, not our problem. So, but that's what he had decided on. Now we just needed that wood grain color. What did he want it to be? So like I said, Wednesday comes around. So I go, okay, this is it. This is the last time. I tried emailing him. I waited about an hour. Nothing happened. I tried calling him, and he didn't pick up. We called one of the other PMs, and he was there. The PM picked up. The other PM that we had called picked up, and he said, yeah, I just saw him. He just walked by my office. He had to have gone to his office. So we called the PM, our project PM. He didn't answer. Okay. Well, we didn't want to just go all the way over there and confront him. So I go, hey, I have an idea. Because if we called him in his office, and then we tried calling him on his cell phone, or obviously the institution provided cell phone, and he still didn't answer. So we left him a message. So we waited until lunchtime, and we knew what time the PMs took their lunches. So we waited, and then after they came back, or the time they were supposed to come back, I waited about a half an hour. And then I decided, hey, you know what? He recognizes our phone number, but he doesn't know my personal cell number. I should call him from my personal cell number. Maybe he'll pick up. Let's give that a try. Dial the phone. Sure enough, he picked up. And so I go, hey, this is Oscar from yada. Hey, I really need to get those colors from you for the doors, or for that door on our project, the CT simulator project, because we're running out of time. I literally have a 1 hour window to get that order, and otherwise we're just, stunk. We're sunk on this. We're just going nowhere, And until you make a decision, we're not going to be able to order that door. It's going to delay the project if we don't get a color. I can hear him, and when he picked up, I could hear that he was talking to someone before he said hello. And so he just kind of, and I go, this is very important. Otherwise, we're going to have to, if this goes on too long, if you can't decide by the time we come back, if you don't decide today, and you don't decide the very next day when we come back from these next 2 weeks that the manufacturers are shut down, we're going to have to submit a change order. If you're going to want to rush it, you're going to have to pay for the rush so that we can finish on time. Otherwise, we're going to have our change order include time. So that'll extend our project. And he really, really hated that fact. He's like, no, this project is going to finish on time and on budget. And I'm like, well, not if you don't decide. So he's like, I can hear the internal struggle. I kid you not, guys. I was like, it's a color. It's just a color. Pick one. There's 5 different colors in the freaking area. Pick one. It doesn't matter which one. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this guy is not going to, he's not going to choose a color. He's just going to make up some excuse. And so I was sitting there, and about 10 seconds passed by. And so I go, hey, you still there? He's like, yes, I'm still here. And I go, okay, well, what's the answer? Are we going to get a door color or not? And he literally says, well, there's too many choices. I can't make a decision right now. And he hangs up. And, and I'm sitting there with my phone. I got my phone there. And I'm just like, and I turn back to my boss, and she's looking at me. She goes, what did he say? And I go, he didn't say anything. Well, okay, he said, I can't make a decision right now, or there's too many choices. I can't make a decision right now. And then he hung up on me. And she goes, no. I said, yes, he hung up on me. She's like, are you serious, Oscar? I'm like, he hung up on me. And she's like, that's never happened to me before. I go, I don't care that he hung up on me. I really don't. It's going to be on him because now we're going to be delayed. I'm not going to call him back again. He has made his decision very clear. So we're going to be delayed 2 weeks, at the very least 2 weeks. And sure enough, we came back and he still couldn't decide. He literally waited till the very last second. So we had to finish the rest of the rest of the project, and the flooring went down, everything. So once the doors actually got there, we did have to undercut all 3 doors in order for them to fit. The flooring went down, and so we had to make sure that we had the right clearance for the HVAC. You guys know that for the balancing, things like that. But we're like, oh my gosh, that's insane. Why would you do that? But that's the way this guy was. He was so anal retentive about a bunch of stuff, especially as an architect from before, a practicing architect. We just couldn't believe that he was a practicing architect prior to becoming a project manager for this medical institution. And we're like, you have to be kidding me. So we went on to find out that after he left his practice, he shut down his practice. And I was like, I don't think it was that customers were hard to work with. I think it was him that was hard to work with. So he shut down his practice, and he actually went to work for another medical institution, a private practice, or not a private practice, but he went to a private medical institution, and he was a senior project management there. Actually, I believe he was the director of construction over there. So one of the PMs that we've dealt a lot with at this medical institution, and he was, there was a director of construction there at the institution, and there was the PM that we worked with a lot that we actually liked. Well, it turns out that the PM that, this terrible PM, really, when he came on, right, at the private medical institution, he was a senior PM, and the PM that we really liked was under him over there at the private medical institution. So then when the PM that we liked left over there, we'll call him Larry. Let's make this easy. Okay, okay, we'll call the PM that we really liked, we'll call him Larry. And the guy, the guy that we really don't like, we'll call him Paul. Okay? So, at the private medical institution, Paul was the boss and Larry was under him. So then when Larry left over there and he came to this medical institution, like the state funded medical institution, and he became the PM, right? So Larry's working here, perfectly fine and everything, and the director of construction decided to step down. So that seat was vacant for a while. So the committee that was in charge of, overseeing these management level positions, they did make it available to some of the PMs that were there. They had to meet certain criteria, obviously. So they were looking at the PM that we liked working with. They were looking at Larry to fill that spot, but at the same time, they were looking at outside candidates to come in and fill that spot that have also had experience. In the end, they went with Larry. They made him director of construction, but it just seemed like the very next natural thing to do because he had been working there for over a decade and he knew the place in and out because he's been there, walked around everywhere, and he's had construction projects in literally every single building of that medical institution, or actually that medical facility more than anything. So when Paul came, right, and they were equals, they were both there as PMs. There was no I'd lie. There was a senior PM. He retired. When he retired, they did away with that position. There was no senior project manager anymore. It was just all the project managers. Just the seniority was a little bit different, just depending on the years that you were there. And they actually added 1, 2, 3 more PMs while I was there. Supposedly they had more jobs going on, but when we really looked at it, they really weren't. It was a whole bunch of little stuff. It was friends hiring friends, as we found out. But anyways, so the senior PM position never was filled. It was just done away with. So Larry became director of construction, and he didn't like the way Paul was treating everyone, from the contractors to the people there to the other PMs. And he was being very toxic to that environment. So Larry actually ended up taking Paul and shrinking his office almost to the size of a walk-in closet, pretty much, very small, from this nice big office with cabinets along one wall, like 7-foot high cabinets that had plans and other stuff in them, into this tiny little area, right? This tiny little office. And so what they did is that they took part of his office, obviously, and the old senior PM's office, and they actually extended that and made it so they actually fit like 4 PMs in that space. And then they had 2 more PMs in another space. But those other 2 PMs actually ended up coming to where the other 4 were, and they made space for them over there. And where the 2 PMs were, they put Larry in that office as the director of construction. So he had that nice big area. And then they had the administrative people that dealt with contracts and all the subs right outside of his office. In their small office, there was 2 of them. There's 2, the nicest, most wonderful girls. I just didn't see that how or why they would come work under these people. Because these guys, honestly, these PMs, because it was state funded, it was public money. And it just, the way they treated people and the way they treated contractors was very demeaning. Luckily, my bosses, taught me about public construction law, public contract law, and especially in the system that they were in, because it was a university, and it was a public university whose medical facility it was. So because of that, all their contracts were actually, all the rules for the way they handled contracts, the way they issued contracts, was actually in the state constitution. So public contract law is there and it's set, and they were actually trying to violate some of those by pressuring the contractors to do certain things and not compensating them for it. Or the contractors would do this favor and do stuff without charging them, and comes to find out, that obviously on the weekends, things like that, they were hanging out together. They were buying each other gifts. They went to each other's houses, which obviously is a no-no. You're not supposed to patronize with those people. So, but so we just stayed out of it. We stayed out of those kinds of things. And like, you know what? We don't need that kind of crap. We're going to keep doing our job. We are going to be the ones, we're going to rise above all that stuff. We are ethically strong. We do our work. We do our work. We stick to the contract. We do what we say we're going to do in the time we're going to do it and for the price we're going to do it. Obviously, when change orders come up, legit change orders, then yes, the price is going to change, or we're going to have to extend the schedule a couple of days, a couple of weeks because of things out of our control. All legit things. That's just the way we rolled. So all these other contractors getting, and then also the small projects, obviously these other contractors were getting, we always had to fight and bid for our projects when they were being handed projects, no matter how small or big. Well, there was a limit to how much the PMs at the institution could actually hand out, in contracts without going to public bid. Okay. So like we said, we're not even going to deal with that. So in the end, after Paul got his tiny little office, they shoved a new PM that had been working there. Oh, gosh, I can't even remember what he was, but they made him a PM. And we saw him walking around with Larry. Larry was showing, they were walking around they were walking around this PM who didn't have any projects yet, with Larry. And so Larry was showing him, when they go in, this is the framing, the drywall, the ceiling. You got to make sure that when they're doing, they're shooting wires, you got to make sure, depending on if it's a medical office building on this campus, or like this, if it's the main hospital or one of the OSHPOD, the OSHPOD buildings and the level of OSHPOD, they have to drill in the anchors for the T-bar, the acoustical ceiling for the suspension system and the bracing. He was literally teaching him everything a PM should already know going into that position. That's why, you serve and you advance as you go when you're learning things. But like I said, he came on and he must have rubbed someone the right way to say, okay, cool, come on, we'll make you a PM and you just learn on the job. So that really pissed me off, obviously, because I was like, what the hell? These guys are just barely coming in the game. They make him a PM. I've been doing this, as a PE and then a superintendent and assistant PE or PM for like the last 6-7 years, man. And I'm hoping to become a PM within the next 2 or 3 years, so then I'll have a good amount of experience, be it mostly in OSHPOD and commercial, because it's OSHPOD, is mostly commercial buildings, commercial construction, but I don't know. Anyways, in the end, they took that new PM and put him in the office with Paul. I was like, oh my gosh, because that was barely big enough for Paul. Paul was not a small guy. Paul was a chunky guy. And so he needed space, and they put this other guy who I wouldn't call him fat. I wouldn't call him big. He's just a little bit on the chunky side, okay? He's not overweight by any means, okay? But, both of them need room to move around and things like that. They were stuck in this tiny little... And he was the oldest building on campus, man. I was like, good Lord, the damn thing was built in 1927, and they're still using it. They keep updating it and updating it. There's only so much you can do. So anyways, they're stuck in this little tiny thing. And that room never, ever had air conditioning. It had heating, but no air conditioning. So the two guys, the one big guy and the other, a little bit chubby guy, are in this office. It's horrible. But... Paul sees the writing on the wall, and he starts becoming almost belligerent, and he's just what do you call it? Not misbehaving, but he's just mistreating people so bad that Larry finally just flat out fired him. didn't like, oh, we're gonna lay you off. There's not enough projects. No, he just flat out straight, you know what? I'm really sorry. You need to go. That's it. You're fired. I was like, damn, it's about fucking time someone grew some balls around here and stood up to him. Because he literally walked around like he owned the fucking place. Like, dude, you you're killing me. Like, well, you're killing me, Paul. Right? So, that was that story, man. Oh, that was crazy. Fun times. Fun time as a PM. Right? And there's a bunch of other stories, like I said, we go on. So that was today's, it was Saturday. Today's January 9th. I started at 3:30 p.m. or 3:28, some shit like that. It was a minute or two early, whatever. But yeah, so the next time I'll be on is Wednesday. I still haven't really decided. Maybe, instead of a story talking about an actual aspect of being a project manager, software, I draw. So we could go over a project, to pull up AutoCAD or Revit, do that. I really liked Revit. I pretty much switched over from AutoCAD to Revit, to tell you the truth, for most of my architectural drawings. I had the architecture, AutoCAD architecture. I had been using that for a while, so that gives you elements like walls and doors and things that you don't have to obviously draw. They're closer to BIM, to building information modeling, but not quite. And I don't know, coming up with schedules, doing stuff like that was just a little more difficult. It's so much easier in Revit. I mean, good Lord. A 2-week project, or a project that takes me 2 weeks to get to a certain point in Revit, I can get to literally 2 weeks, 14 days. In Revit, I can get there in like 3 or 4. It's amazing, you guys. And the detailing, oh my gosh. Just have to work on I don't have to draw the entire detail. I can pull the little, the call out, draw a rectangle around that, and it literally gives me a whole new detail for that call out. And I don't have to number. I don't have to, remember where I'm at with my numbering. Every time I grab that detail, because it has a little column, and grab that detail, dump it onto an actual sheet, and it automatically populates the call out with the detail number and the sheet, or just the detail, however you decide you want your call outs to be. It's awesome, guys. If your office uses AutoCAD for anything, like if you guys are one of those bigger construction firms, and you guys have some in-house not designers, but some in-house CAD people to help do stuff like that, where you guys, or even if you're a design build company, BIM is like the way to go, because it gives you so much information that is there. And all of these different manufacturers are doing their own BIM materials. So you can literally pull a pump from the manufacturer's website, download their BIM model for Revit, and then you import it in. And so when you're doing your plumbing drawings, you can put the pump. And so then when you do your schedule of equipment, I mean, it lists the pump. And if they did their work correctly, I mean, it gives you the voltage, it gives you, inlet size, outlet size, and all kinds of information. But it's dependent on the information they put on that model, right? So, switches, outlets, freaking lighting, all kinds of different shit. It's so much easier. Plans get done so much faster. And I know they have other stuff like ArchiCAD. I don't know. What is it? That other one. There's another one that people use. Oh gosh, I want to say it starts with an M, but I can't even remember what the hell it is right now. But anyways, I've always used Autodesk just because it was like the biggest thing that was out there. So yeah, using the AutoCAD and the Revit, man, so much easier. But anyways, oh man, yeah, I think we'll just come back with the story for Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday. So I'm here Wednesdays and Saturdays, as you know. Obviously, you're here on the Saturday, but I'm here Wednesdays and Saturdays, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, and I'll try to go for an hour, but if we run out, if I run out of things to talk about, then we'll just cut it short. But hopefully, when we get subscribers and things like that, you guys, we'll have a chat, and you guys can ask me questions, and we'll try to go a little bit longer than an hour. If you guys have questions, we can chat about and stuff like that, or ask me about other experiences, things like that. that'd be awesome. So if you take a look on the bottom of your screen right there, I got the email over here. You got the Twitter right there. Obviously channel, that's the channel name up there, CPM Zone with my logo. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter or the email. If you look in the description, you're gonna find the other emails from the old brand that was here. Obviously, the OG construction project manager or OG CPM. You'll find in the description the email for that and also the Twitter, and everything's active, right? The CPM zone, the Twitter email, and also the OG construction project manager Twitter and email. Those things are still active. You can hit me up anytime on those. I'll give you my advice when you guys send it over, and I'll probably bring it up and talk about, at least mention things here and there, aspects of your story probably, and obviously with no names or anything, I'll just substitute a bunch of different things in, but we'll get the gist of it. Okay. So yeah, I'll think of something. So take a look out for that thumbnail so you can see what the next story is going to be about. Just a lot of these stories are at the same medical institution, just because that was like our bread and butter. If we didn't have anything going on, it's because there was nothing going on there at the institution. So a lot of these stories are going to be between 1, 2, 3, 4 different PMs that were there, whether that while I was employed at the general contractor, we dealt with 5 different PMs there throughout the course of everything. And I think just because of that, you know what? I feel like we should have a crazy story. And by crazy story, I mean this same institution had a psychiatric ward. And it was very interesting, the project that I was involved in that we did there. So we'll pull that up. And yes, even though we weren't supposed to, I did interact with one of the people that were there in the psychiatric ward. And I don't mean any of the workers. I mean the people that were actually admitted there. And to be honest, it wasn't necessarily my fault, that the interaction happened. They came up and they were addressing me. It was me and the employee, the actual laborer that was doing the work there. We just happened to come around to the other side of our project because we needed to see something on the back side. And so, the whole time, we were still escorted by one of the people there or who worked there in that area of the hospital. And so kind of funny, very very short interaction, but still funny. And there was one guy, he was the painter there at the one of the painters there, and we saw him all the time. He's just really funny, really really old guy. You could tell he had lived quite a life, and so it was now, because he's just old and everything, he was settled down. He's still fucking funny as fuck, man. The stories and the different shit that he said, and he had a little bit of a speech impediment, just made it funnier. But okay, so for next time, I'm gonna tell you a story about the project I did in the psychiatric ward. All right, so yeah, I think that's gonna be it. So look for that Wednesdays, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget that. Be here Pacific time. So hey, if you guys are getting a kick out of these stories, and like I said, the content that's already here, or if you guys have learned something, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this channel so that we can all get together and tell other crazy stories, and I can pull things up and whatnot, and maybe even highlight some of you guys from the stories that you send in and things like that. If you don't want them shared, you just let me know and we won't do it. I'll interact with just you, whether it's through the email or the Twitter accounts, but then we'll kind of decide, you let me know if you don't want me to do it. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that, guys. All right. So yeah, do me a favor, spread the channel, let everybody know, anybody, assistant PMs, PEs, even hell, your superintendents, anybody looking to move up in management. And like I said before in one of my other, actually, what was it? One of the shorter streams, so that we can, if you guys have someone that is kind of looking to get into the game, into the construction industry or anything like that, let them have a shot at, or let them see this channel, and especially when you have more subscribers, so you can kind of talk about more appropriate project manager things, how to handle oneself, how to handle change orders, how to handle owners, architects, engineers, any other designers, and kind of like the shit that they think of. We'll just share the channel. All right, have them, ask them to just check it out, even if it's just that. But if you really did like the stuff that I talk about and the stories that I have told so far, and that I'm gonna tell because I have plenty more, yeah, give this video a like. Give any of the other videos a like. It really helps. Subscribe to the channel and hit that little notification bell down there that's right next to the subscribe channel. So it lets you know, when either I put out content or we're gonna go live like this again. All right, which, as you already know, it's Wednesdays and Saturdays. All right, so until the next time, guys, stay safe.